I want to share today how my family of four lived for 4 years in 300 square feet and how the sacrifice and humility that required was one of the greatest things that's launched us forward toward our dreams. I don't want to just share some frivolous little encouragement or hope for you. I just want to give you a nitty-gritty, raw story from the school of hard knocks and what's worked for us and why, no matter what situation you find yourself in today, in whatever way you're in survival mode, you may be looking at a situation that's looking pretty intense and pretty scared of what your options are. I want you to know that you can face that with courage. Like us, you can experience something where your biggest problem is your greatest opportunity. This is something I have been living for about 14 years, and together now with my husband, 11 of the last 14 years. Just this maxim of learning to turn whatever situation life gives us into the best that we can create of it. I just love that phrase, and that's what we live by. Our story started 3 days before Christmas in 2018. I was at a park running our dogs and got a call from my husband that there was a fire. And sure enough, I looked up in the sky south toward town where our home was, and the smoke was billowing. Drove across town. We knew that my husband had our son and I had the two dogs, so all living creatures were safe. But we basically watched nearly everything we owned go up in smoke that day, including our livelihood for the two businesses that we had, which was a creative renovation business and a food truck business. And so, as we stood there bawling our eyes out, we determined that even though we would never wish a fire on our worst enemies, we just drew a line in the sand and determined that this would be a day that we would look back on with gratitude as one of the most valuable days of our lives. And that's how we decided to live from that point forward. Now, that was very difficult because we were planning to announce to friends and family on Christmas Day that we were pregnant with our second child. So in the middle of all this, we had a pregnancy, and sure enough, as we told everyone about the fire and bawling my eyes out, I remember trying to say, the good news is we're having a baby and all that stuff. And yes, it was good news, and that little baby was a bright spot of hope and joy in the midst of a crappy, difficult season. We were overwhelmed. First of all, we had no insurance. It's a complicated story, but we had no insurance to cover our loss. We had been saving to purchase a home, and as it was, we thought we were going to be using everything we had saved to rebuild our businesses and still have no place to live and very little options in that way. But we were totally blessed when friends asked if they could do a GoFundMe campaign for us, and over the next few weeks, we were given something like $25,000 to rebuild our lives. It was an absolute miracle of generosity. And we couldn't even begin to thank everybody that we know of that helped us, and so many more that we didn't even know that remained anonymous. Added to all of those gifts, we were also given something like 4 months to live in vacation rentals by the generosity of a number of my husband's clients who had become friends in our creative renovation business. We had about 4 months to breathe and regroup and decide how we were going to face things moving forward. And so, as it was, with all the options at our fingertips, sometimes those options don't feel like much. It seems like it's ugly or crappy, and which is the best of the two, right? We ultimately decided to buy land because rents in Bend at the time were $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and we needed space for a couple trailers for both businesses. We couldn't just live in an apartment very easily. We needed land, and so we bought land outside the city, and we ultimately decided to purchase an RV that was about 36 feet long, had 3 slides and a full bunkhouse in the back, and we decided to live off-grid on our property. We also bought a couple cargo containers, small ones, 20-foot cargo containers, and we built a small little, one of them became, well, one was for storage for our business equipment, and the other was like an office and a little guest house of sorts for family that came to stay. But living off grid was a huge challenge. We're talking living out of water tanks and having water trucks deliver our water. We used a generator for power and also some solar power. And we had our septic pumped on a regular basis. And because of the circumstances, you know, this is hard to talk about. You know, it's hard to talk about. It was a really hard season of our life. Our marriage was very stressed through those years. And as we were rebuilding our businesses, we had a baby. That first summer, we moved into the RV 4 months after our fire. Originally, our plan was to build a shop and live in the RV that first winter and then build a home. But after the first summer, rebuilding our businesses, we realized we had nothing left to build a shop, and there was no way we were going to endure a winter in the RV, at least that first year. We decided to travel, and that was one of the best things that could have ever happened to us. We had to shut our businesses down in order to travel. And in doing that, we took, I don't know how many months off it was that first winter, 4 or 5 months. And we traveled all through the Southwest. It opened our eyes to realizing that maybe we did not want to build so quickly and jump into that. We wanted to move toward being debt-free. We had some debt to pay off. We liked the idea of being able to travel, and we liked this idea of even the seasonality. What would it be like to only work half the year and take half the year off? And so when we got back to Bend, we had a renewed vision as to what that was going to look like. Now, we doubled down. We ended up actually spending a winter in our RV, so we have lived hardcore, off-grid, in a high desert winter, in an RV, and it can be done. It helps to have the right equipment, for sure, but we doubled down because we had decided that the next year we were going to go to Bali and Thailand. And I think we narrowed it down to Indonesia. We had it narrowed down to about 3 countries for a number of reasons, and then COVID hit. And so that kind of derailed our plans for a while, but we stayed doubled down and we just focused on saving. We focused on building our businesses and determined that we were going to make this situation be, well, I'll say this, in the middle of the fire, as we watched the fire burning everything important that we owned to the ground, we were muttering to ourselves through a veil of tears that we were going to make this, we were going to draw a line in the sand and make this day something to look back on. We were going to make that day worth it. Like, we were going to use it for everything that was in that fire. You know, they say there's a lot of life and power comes through death, and it was a death, a total death. We didn't ask for it, we didn't want it, but that death forced us to rebuild, to restart, jumpstart our lives. Through a lot of prayer and prayers from other people, we rebuilt. As we rebuilt, we had an opportunity to get clear on how we wanted to live, what we wanted our lives to be like, what kind of family we wanted. The tension was that we were living in 300 square feet as a family, off-grid, in stressful situations. And when you are living like that with anyone in a small confined space, it is a challenge, and it affords a lot of opportunities to get angry, to take your frustrations out on someone else. Neither of us were perfect. We had a hard go of it, but we've come through the other side of it. In the middle of it, we often talked about how if you want to live like no one else, then you need to live like no one else. For us, living in an RV, doing something, you know, neither of us had ever wanted to do, as an opportunity to live like no one else so that we could live like no one else. We had dreams and visions of being debt-free. When we got married, we were both strong, committed believers, and there was lots of talk about tithing. And my husband and I decided that we wanted to do a reverse tithe. We wanted to live on 10% and give away 90%. And that is one of our giving goals. That is what we're moving toward. So I offer this today. I just share this little story. We did something We would never wish on our worst enemies, but we did it. We came through the other side. And when you get stronger by doing difficult things, you find out first that you're able to do so much more than you ever imagined. And you can go farther than you ever imagined. There's so many examples of that in life. But if you're in survival mode, if you're facing a situation where you might be in survival mode and you need encouragement today, this isn't airy-fairy stuff. This is raw, real, strip it down, the hard, naked truth about it. That, you know what? If things are difficult and you are in a rough situation, you might need to sell a lot of your possessions. You might need to become a minimalist, and you might need to do what you've never done before. But you can come out the other side stronger than you ever imagined. I never in my wildest dreams thought we would have committed to being in an RV for 4 years. Once we got into it and realized what we were saving and the progress we were making, we decided to just keep going and go a little further and go a little further. And as we took stock of what our options were, we kept pushing the envelope of what we were able to do because we had a vision to do so much more. And for us, we felt that sacrifice would be worth its weight in gold and take us much farther. So what did we gain by doing that? What did we gain by living in an RV for 4 years? We saved a huge amount of money. I don't know, and I can't put it in percentages exactly, but you can watch some of my other videos. It's how we've saved our first 100,000 and our second 100,000 cash. We have had the chance to travel the country multiple times. One time taking our trailer with us, many other times we took most winters off since that first year. We have taken off at least 3 months every year without fail. It's afforded us another lifestyle that we wanted. We got to learn what it was like to be a minimalist and to be really aware of how possessions were tools. We want to be intentional with the possessions that we have. We don't want extra baggage in our life. We don't want extra noise. And so we just want to really be intentional. You know, for us, making the investment in land, our land appreciated a huge amount. We sold our property for as much as some people buy houses for when we decided to move. Even raw land, choosing to invest in raw land was a really wise choice for us. And lastly, when we finally got into our home, I'll tell you, when you live simply and when you're stretched in areas, it's amazing the things that you appreciate. A big bathtub, how amazing. Running water that is not limited to the tank of an RV, how wonderful. Not having to fill propane tanks, electricity. You know, there's so many things that we take for granted in modern life that my family, we appreciate in a whole new way, and we always will, because we experienced what it was like to do without those luxuries. One of our desires is to raise our boys to be grateful and to recognize the luxuries that we live with in this country and to be generous. Our oldest son is going to appreciate and is going to have those memories to take with him for the rest of his life, in addition to just what my husband and I have gained. So, lots of insights, and if anything, or if nothing else, I just hope that this gives you courage to face whatever it is you're facing and know that you can come out on the other side, no matter how difficult it is, in a better place. It might take a few years, but your biggest problem is really your greatest opportunity. As hard as it is to face, be empowered to look at your situation with those eyes today. Thank you. If you were encouraged, please share this video with a friend and share that encouragement in the comments below. Your support means a great deal to me.